So guys, if you are over the age of 30 and if you are thinking of studying in Canada, then I'm sure that the decision must be tough because a lot of people have been surrounded by myths and some misconceptions about studying in Canada, where I totally acknowledge that it is not an easy task, but we have definitely had some good success, and I will share all those inputs and all my my understandings around studying in Canada when either you're over the age of 30 or probably you're a matured student or you've had a lot of gap years. Please be tuned till the end. My name is Sahil. So guys, welcome back once again. My name is Sahil and I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant and I practice in Brampton, Ontario. My office is here. If you have to get in touch with me, my number is on the screen and the details are there in the description box. More than happy to connect with you. Guys, before we proceed any further, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the bell icon because we talk a lot about Canadian immigration. And if you're an aspirant of coming to Canada, then this is a channel that you must be subscribed to all the time. So guys, today's topic is really important because for a lot of people, coming to Canada after the age of 30 is not really an option because express entry, the FSW or the other programs are getting tougher by the day. Now, for a lot of people, where an LMIA or the other, the work permit could not be a way where for them a study permit, that is studies in Canada as an international student could be a better way or one of the only ways for them to come to Canada, right? Now, all of them are really worried because they could be over the age of 30 or they could be matured students, say people over the age of 25, 26 or maybe 28 as well, or they could be students who have a lot of gap years as well. Well, all those people who've been coming to me, they've had a lot of misconceptions and myths, so I decided to make this video and clear those around you. But first, let's just have a look at as to why anybody would want to study in Canada. Guys, as you already know that studies in Canada at the right college, at the right DLI could lead to an open work permit, which is known as a PGWP or the post graduation work permit. Now, the benefit of a post graduation work permit is that when you start working in Canada, then you could start accumulating the Canadian experience class. Now, if you look at the cutoffs under express entry for the Canadian experience class, they are way lower than the FSW. In the past entire year of 2021, where we had no draws of FSW, there were still some draws of CEC and a lot of people made their ways into Canada as a permanent resident. On the contrary, you had a lot of public policies, the TR to PR pathway, and a lot of issues around COVID where they were made easier for the international students to come to Canada and it was easier for them to claim a PR as well. Now, that has been done primarily because the students have spent considerably higher amount of time, money and efforts in getting accustomed to the Canadian tradition, and that's the reason why an international student in Canada is a custom fit as a permanent resident of the future. Also, there are special PNPs like the international graduate streams, the master's graduate stream, which have been designated by a lot of provinces to help these international students get the PR. In the year 2022, you could also be looking at provinces like New Brunswick issuing special international graduate streams to help certain colleges or universities get more PRs, right? So all of such initiatives are a part of the Canadian immigration practices by IRCC and by the provincial authorities both. Guys, I personally think that having spoken to a lot of people, I personally think that a lot of people have the biggest myth that gap years are an issue. Guys, while you're definitely correct that they are an issue, but the myth is that it is not a deal breaker. You could definitely have an explanation set out in your statement of purpose as to why the gap was there. And if you justify that well, you could definitely take care of your situation. Another myth that people normally have is that the age is also an issue. They generally think that after the age of 24 or 25, they are not good as international students. Guys, that's the biggest myth. If you look at my particular situation, I have had people at the age of 40 also get their student visas approved, and we have also done that for people who've had past visa refusals as well. Okay, so we've done cases, important cases, milestone cases from other countries as well, where a student had no work experience up until the age of 28, had 4 incomplete courses in the US, and then also when we applied for it, the visa got approved. While we're not saying that we have 100% hit rate or 100% success rate, but What I'm trying to convey here is that we have had some complex cases getting approved from IRCC, which clearly means that if you put your case correctly or with the right, explanation and the right situation being explained to the visa officer, you could be looking at a visa approval. But for more explanation, please continue watching this video till the end, because I'm going to be telling what is the visa rate approval and everything, right? So all of that. Well, the another myth that I think people normally have is that after the age of 24 or 25, generally a master's degree is the only route that is possible. Guys, that is another myth. I've had 2 students in the past who got refused for a study permit, and then we got them approved. Like, I reapplied for them, and they got they got approved for the second time when they were applying for a PG, like a post graduation diploma, right? Now, if a master's degree was the only case, then these 2 would not have been passed, right? So important scenario here is you need to convey the right message to the visa officer, and you need to have the right reason to study in Canada, right? So if you have put in a good file, if you have explained your situation well, you should not be worried. Guys, if you look at the numbers and the rate of approvals that have been shared by StatCan and the other sources, it is definitely true that students after 18 years, which is like after completing grade 12 in their respective countries, have a very high approval rate. It is also true that students between the age of 21 and 24 also have a very high rate of approval. That's because they're usually either going for a bachelor's, or they're going for their post-grad degree, or they're going for a master's, right? So all of those students are continuing their studies, and they are continuing their international education in Canada in one flow. For sure, they have a better rate of approval. But if you look at people who are over the age of 25 but below 30, the general approval rate sits at between 40% to 60%. Okay, and then for all the people who are over the age of 30, the approval rate is only 25% or even lower in some cases. Okay, guys, please note this is very important, because a lot of people, when they are applying for student visa, generally think that they would quit their job. Okay, please do not do that. That's a big no, because the success rate of a visa approval after the age of 25, or maybe after the age of 30, is only 25%. If you have a master's already, if you're not getting into the right course, then that success rate could even be lower than that. So always have in mind that whenever you are applying, you should continue to live your life normally, dedicate some sunken cost to your student visa application, and if in case the visa gets rejected, think of that cost going down, and you should not be worried about it, right? So always have a dedicated budget when you are a matured student. Okay, guys, I personally think that going through a lot of cases in the past, having done a lot of consultations, I can clearly identify some certain reasons of rejection. First of which being that the applicant has not been able to convince the officer that the applicant is a bona fide student. Okay, which means a bad SOP or a statement of purpose is not clear. So you must really focus on your statement of purpose, because that has to convince the officer really well. Okay, another thing that I've seen very commonly available is a bad course selection. People generally go by their by their industry, or go by their company. Say for example, if somebody is working as a sales or maybe a business development manager in an IT company, the person thinks that the person can go for an IT related course. Or maybe if the person has been working as a developer in the analytics field, okay, say HP Analytics, a company like in the analytics division of any company, the person thinks that he or she can go for an analytics course. Guys, that is not correct. You must stick to your roles. If you are working as an IT developer, you must stick to that role. Okay, if you are working in sales, you must go in a course that is related to sales. You must have a connectivity of that course. You must have a reason as to why you want to do a particular course. Not just because you're working in the construction industry, you would want to go for a planning and management course, or maybe a project management course. Could be working in sales or finance, right? So go with your domain, not with your industry. Another thing that I think people normally face are inappropriate documentation, where they are not able to apply under a particular, say for example, an SDS category. Now if you're living in a country that is SDS approved, and if you still try to apply under the non-SDS category, then you could be looking at a lot of time delay and low success rate. Okay, make sure that you put in all the documents and follow the document checklist strictly. and you should always go over the checklist, but don't provide documents under the checklist. Okay. Another thing that people generally have is they don't have the competency to complete the course. Say for example, they've had bad marks, or not enough marks during their 10th, 12th, or maybe their graduation years. They could definitely run into trouble. Or if somebody has a low IELTS score, then they could also run into trouble. I've gone through a lot of GCMS notes, and the officers have clearly noted that the person's language ability is not enough, or maybe the person does not have a good academic background, right? So that could be an issue. Another issue that people generally have are the family ties back home. Say family ties in Canada, family ties back home, economic ties. If you don't have strong ties, you could run into trouble there as well. If you have an issue around the financial funding, say the source of money accumulated in your account is not justifiable, that could also land you into trouble, right? So make sure when you are preparing your case, you should cover all of these grounds, have a reasonable explanation to all of these situations, and then only go for your course selection. Guys, for people who are generally over the age of 25-30, please ensure that you find the right course. You have good colleges and universities here in Canada, say a university like UCW, where you could go for an MBA without a GMAT as well, right? But make sure that you're a right fit for the MBA course. Don't just randomly get out of your IT job and go for an MBA, right? That is an Indian culture, but that is not the Canadian culture. You need to be a right fit for the right course that you're applying to. Not everybody can do an MBA. Please remember that, right? So, guys, studying in Canada after the age of 30 is definitely a possibility, but the possibility is low. Even if you get an offer letter, the Canadian immigration, the IRCC, is not obligated to give you a visa. The success rate after the age of 30 generally is below 25%. Always remember that. If you are willing to take your chances, if you think you don't have any other option of getting a Canadian PR through any other way, but you still want to come to Canada, try your luck, and you still think that you're a bona fide student, as to you really want to study in Canada, then only you should go ahead and use this particular pathway. Otherwise, you should look at alternate paths. Guys, I hope the information today was helpful. If you still have a case to discuss, please feel free to drop in a message on the number on the screen. Details are there in the description box. Please feel free to schedule a session, and I will be more than happy to speak to you. Once again, lovely chatting with you, and I really hope to see you soon in Canada. All the best.